Welcome to the Surrogacy Warrior podcast with your host, Kimberly Surratt. Join us as we dive deep into the heart of surrogacy, offering insights, sharing stories, and providing advice. Our mission is to illuminate every corner of surrogacy, from the emotional roller coasters and legal battles to the triumphant moments of birth and beyond. Surrogacy Warrior is more than just a podcast. It's a community for anyone touched by or interested in the transformative power of surrogacy. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, LawyersForFamilies.com. Now here's the host of Surrogacy Warrior, Kimberly Surratt.
Welcome. This is the Surrogacy Warrior podcast, where we navigate all incredible things regarding the journey of surrogacy and assisted reproduction. I'm Kim Surratt. I'm your host and passionate advocate for creating families through these remarkable paths. Today, we're talking with Olga Diaz. She is with Grace Foundation, 𝐻𝐿𝐲 in Colombia. And hi, how are you today, Olga?
Good, Kim. How are you?
Good. My friend, I've appreciated you for a lot of years. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and just how you got into surrogacy work?
Well, I got into surrogacy world probably around 18 years ago. I went through the legal path of it. I'm an attorney from Colombia, born and raised. I did my comparative law program in San Diego, and I started working for an attorney in San Diego that had those cases about egg donation, embryo donation, and surrogacy. As I'm bilingual, my Spanish is pretty proficient in writing and speaking. So she needed somebody that actually can speak to the clientele that she had from Spain. So that's how I started. I loved it because before that I did family law, but the part that is like a negative, divorces, custodies, and things like that. So I went from the negative to the positive, which I am a very positive person. So I loved it. And I did few years in the legal portion of it. And after I moved to the side of the agency, which, to coordinate cycles, I like that portion of it more than the legal, because in the legal, you just have so much room to grow, and you see only, contracts, things like that, but you don't explore more than that. In the human, like I call the human portion of it, is more about the contact you have with the parents, the contact you have with the surrogate. And I'm very pro surrogacy or surrogate too. So I really like that, to meet the surrogate, to that, one-on-one with her, going to appointments with them. So I did open my own practice, and I've been with Grace LLC for 12 years now. And it's been wonderful from the day one, and I have been growing because I'm originally from Colombia, and in Colombia, surrogacy is okay to do at the moment. So I opened like a branch there of Grace LLC called Fundación Grace, and I opened it up in my hometown of Cali. So I've been with Fundación Grace for 2 years now. So I have US and Colombia. And the more important thing about is then all the protocols that I have in the US for surrogacy, I brought it to Colombia. So that I think that's something that we're going to talk about later on in the podcast, but it's pretty neat to see how you can blend both cultures too, and legally speaking too, that making it possible.
Okay, so you made a comment that's critical that I really want to cover, which is it's okay to do surrogacy in Colombia right now. And we've got, I've got a significant increase in people in the United States looking outside of the United States for surrogacy. There's a lot of driving factors behind that, but cost is a huge part of it.
Yes.
And just difficulty, the competition, I guess. Competition's a weird word to use, but just
Mm-hmm.
difficulty finding a surrogate in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like that word competition. That it just didn't
No.
feel right, did it? But no. But it's a difficult market right
Yes.
now. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about Colombia and why surrogacy is okay in Colombia right now.
Correct. So Colombia has the legal framework to work it, meaning, through the constitution, we have the rights for the foreign people to do anything they want in Colombia except to vote. They can no political vote, but they can buy property, they can work, things like that. So that is, pretty much based in the constitution. The other one is the right of the children, and they do not kind of differentiate between children born out of in vitro. So that's one of the things that's in the constitution as well. And the other that is, I think, is the more important, I always call the trifecta, is a jurisprudence, it's a constitutional court decision on the right of the woman to be on the birth certificate. So Colombia is very advanced, legally speaking, where, before only the man can say, hey, this is not my child. So he will go in the birth certificate, no, and it was the woman who has to prove that the man was genetically related to the child. So now in Colombia, also from, I believe, 2009 is that jurisprudence, that the woman can also say, I don't want to be the mother of the baby. Even, let's talk about case outside surrogacy, even if that person is carrying the baby, don't believe in abortion, let's say, or something like that, and the pregnancy continues, although in Colombia abortion is legal up to the 24-week of pregnancy. But let's say they didn't notice that they were pregnant, or they didn't want to abort. So at the birth, they can say, I'm not the mother of that child, and the child will go into that legal limbo. They will go for adoption, but she is not going to be on the birth certificate of that baby. So granted that right to the woman, that pretty much opened and it was 2019, I'm sorry, opened pretty much the legal portion of it, or the legal path of surrogacy in Colombia. For the United States, like you mentioned, I have clients, and pretty much what they base the decision to come to Colombia is the cost, because US is very expensive. They're heterosexual couples, very young, too, where, or the woman or the man have the problem of conceiving. So, a lot of people are coming to Colombia because it's pretty much safe, legally speaking, right now doing surrogacy there. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, the jurisprudence that you have, where a woman can say, I am not a parent, and she doesn't go on the birth certificate. So to cross compare that to the United States, if a woman decides she wants to have her child adopted, she's still placed on the birth certificate. It's
Correct.
just she's then removed with the adoption.
Correct.
What happens in Colombia, though, if the dad, the biological father, says, I do want to be a parent, but she doesn't want to be? Does he have the rights to raise that child?
He will be on the birth certificate, yes, but he will have to prove genetically that it's his. Correct. Yes, and that's in cases like normal. There is no surrogacy.
Genetically. Right, but the jurisprudence, or the human rights part of that, is the equal ability for both of them to choose to be or not to be a parent.
Correct, and that's the whole
Versus
thing.
In the United States, even if you say, I don't want to be a parent, but if you're biologically related, we can still say, yeah, but you owe child support until there's somebody else that's a parent. You're a parent, right? That's the difference.
Correct. And the other thing is then, even though the woman is not going to be on the birth certificate, she always will be in that how do you say, confidential portion of it in the hospital. The hospital always have to pretty much to have what woman give birth to what child.
I want to really understand this, because I think these principles, this jurisprudence you have about these human rights and women being able to say that they're not a parent is pretty key to surrogacy in Colombia. And
Correct.
So I want to cross compare it to some of the US concepts so we get our heads wrapped around it and understand what's going on in Colombia with surrogacy. So in the United States, if we have a woman who says, I want somebody to adopt my child, she's still put on the birth certificate. It's that we remove her with the adoption process. If a man says, I don't want to be a parent, or a woman says, I don't want to be a parent, we still have to have that next step. We have to have either an adoption. You can't just say, I'm not a parent. Because in the United States, we say, well, until somebody else is a parent, you're paying child support, essentially. You're still responsible for this child. In Colombia, this is where I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and you're going to help us all understand this. Because the important part here is just that women and men have the same rights. And so, right? Okay. And a woman can say, I don't want to be a parent, and she's not placed on the birth certificate. And you were going to, and so what happens at the hospital?
So at the hospital, there is a document that all the hospital have to have for internal purposes. Okay. Because to the moment, a human deliver another human, although the new saying that machines are delivering humans now. But in Colombia,
yes,
still delivering human beings. So what happened? The hospital has a document where she will be on that document, but just for purposes of kind of like having like a database of who is delivering what baby. But at the moment when she's gonna register as a mother, she can say, no, I don't want to be registered as a mother. Now, you were talking about what happened with that dad, what happened with the man that want to be, the father of that baby. Let's say there is a man that want to be the father of that baby. He has to prove with DNA that he's the father. And once he proves that he is the DNA then he's the father, he cannot force the woman to be on the birth certificate, but he can take action legally speaking towards her to pay child support and things like that, proving that she's genetically the mother. And that's another thing, that's another
so that's very similar to the United States. I mean, if you haven't proven that you're a parent, although we have a presumption if you gave birth, you're a parent automatically. You can disprove it with genetics, especially if there was no, if there was assisted reproduction and a donation. Okay, we're getting into the weeds, but so pretty similar to the United States, really. But in Colombia, there's no, so you're using that jurisprudence, and there's no solid surrogacy statute that you're using.
Correct. There is not. They're trying to build something like that. And I think it's necessary to regulate the surrogacy. I love when it's in a statute, in an article, in anything, then it proven legally that it can be done, because protects everybody, and it looks good too in the country when you have something like that, like the States.
Now you say they are working on something like that. Who's working on it in Colombia?
Well, the government. So there is movements, positive movements and negative movements, and they want surrogacy to be, legalized in Colombia. Other movement, no, because how those movements is the abuse of a woman, and financially the approach to a woman, things like that. So it is like where we call the hot potato. Nobody wants to hold it. It just they kind of like see the issue, but nobody wants to legislate, because at the same time there is no enough information on surrogacy. And I believe, is my point of view in this case, Kim, that they need to follow a country like the United States, which has for many, many, many years surrogacy, implicit in the legal system. So I think it's very important that as a Colombians, we open to listen people that have been done for many, many years, this type of cycles. So that's
So
one of the, and
we
somebody
must,
has to come
right.
from, yeah,
Somebody's got to. You need to, right? If you continue down this path, you never know. At some point, the whole thing
yeah,
can just crumble around you.
yeah.
Okay. Now, with your program in Colombia, well, I want to talk about your program, but let's talk. I want to finish off kind of the conversation about parentage and surrogacy. So,
Yeah.
with the clients that you're working with, what legal methods what are they using in order to become the parents of the child? I mean, obviously, the woman can say, "I'm not a parent,"
Yes.
and then if one of them is genetically related, which hopefully they are in most cases, because most countries we need that for them to go
Yes.
home. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what legal steps are being taken for them for parentage?
Thank you for that question. It's very important. It depends on the country where the baby is going to reside. And we're talking specifically now about surrogacy. So we work with the attorneys from the other country then says, this is what we need. So in Colombia, in the birth certificate can be two men, one parent, two women, or heterosexual couple. Is no problem. It's very advanced legally speaking. Now, the problem is we have to also respect the law of the country in the other side where the baby is going to reside. So, for example, for clients that they are from Spain, France, and countries like that, UK, they need the surrogate to be on the birth certificate for them to go to a judicial process in their country and get the babies nationalized in their country of origin, I will say, because at the end, the babies are, genetically related to the parents that come from that country.
Right.
So you need to understand that, because in Colombia, you are not Colombia because you're born in Colombia. You are Colombia because one of the persons on the birth certificate is Colombian. So when we start the post-birth documentation, the way we start is with the DNA for the three people, the surrogate, which is the one who delivered, which is not genetically related to the baby and the genetically father or mother of the baby is right there. So once we have established that baby has genetically related to the parent, so she will be on the birth certificate that is previously we speak with the surrogate telling her what is the issue in their country. So for the baby to go to leave Colombia as Colombian, and in the other country, the attorney will start a judicial process and they will let us know when we can remove the surrogate from the birth certificate in Colombia. Okay? Very important. Colombia will not allow to remove the name of the surrogate or the woman birth certificate until it's proven that that baby has another nationality. Okay? Because we don't want to leave the baby in a limbo, like you have to have a country, so until it's proven, then the baby has been granted citizenship in Spain, France, UK, or any other country, we will be able to remove the surrogate's name out of the, and that depends on how many
So the
could be months.
jurisprudence that says, yeah, sorry. The jurisprudence that says she has a right to not go on the birth certificate also lets her be removed from the birth certificate. Okay.
Correct. But for example, Kim, I want to talk about clients that come from the States, because
Right.
we have that prudence and we allow to have, single parent or two parents or two men on the birth certificate, and we've proven that one of them is the genetic father, or both of them can be, because can be a heterosexual couple that the embryo genetically related to both of them. They can be on the birth certificate, but we need to prove them the baby is theirs. Okay. Right. Now, the embassy from the United States will look at the DNA test. It will look at the contract, it will look at the birth certificate, and will grant expedite, emergency passport to the baby, to the US baby. So we can have both type of cases where the surrogate goes on the birth certificate, and then the surrogate doesn't have to go on the birth certificate, but that depends on where the parents come from.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and is this specific to the legal team that you're working with? Because I mean, we hear rumors of other agencies in Colombia telling people she has to stay on the birth certificate, which is not true based on everything you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's because she doesn't have to, because it's proven that obviously the baby is not hers and she can say no. Now, obviously, when we select the women who are going to participate in the program as a surrogates, we explain the situation, and they are free to choose if they want to work with a couple or a single male. Then need to be on the birth certificate, because it takes a little bit of months, or we always say up to 3 years to remove her from the birth certificate. I hope it doesn't take 3 years, but pretty much it's about a year, then we can remove her from the birth certificate.
Okay. That's, but we hear of people, so I've worked with people who have been told by agencies, no, she has to go on there. They have to wait for that long time period, which for a US citizen is very problematic.
Yeah,
If the
it's not.
option is to not put her on
Yeah,
there, we don't need her. We prefer her never
yeah.
to go on there.
It,
Yeah.
it's not, because otherwise we will not have clients that have had the expedite passport. You know how the US with law, with the immigration is so tough, then they will not do that. You know what I mean? Now, US supported, because in the US it's permitted surrogacy in most of the states.
Right.
So they don't have a problem. If you prove that there is a legal contract with the surrogate, then there is a genetic testing that is your baby and is not the surrogate's baby, they don't have no problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when people are looking at agencies in Colombia, I would say number one on screening purposes is look at what they're telling you about the legal process. If they're telling you there's only one possibility, then you're not getting accurate information
Correct.
from that agency.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So
So
I think, or they don't want to explore those agencies, other possibilities, or they don't know the possibilities, or they're afraid then probably to say something about the US embassy. But it is true, because like I say, the clients that we have, they haven't had any problems in getting the passport expedite for their baby. No problem. I think they're more welcome actually to, and help them to expedite things to go back to their country. So honestly, I don't know what will be the purpose of those agencies or fundaciones to not tell that, the what is the way it's supposed to be.
the way to do it.
But
I
but
think you and I've had a discussion before, though. Do you
yeah.
think it's somewhat geographic in what area of Colombia you're in, Bogota versus Cali, and the different
No,
lawyers as far as their information or attitudes? I don't know. No.
I don't know, Kim. I don't know, because I only work with, because I interview the
Right.
attorneys, and I know how the attorneys in the States work. So I got somebody's pretty similar that work like that in Colombia, person that is not so much, of course, is an attorney, but also has that human portion of it, like you do. You love to hear about the cycles, love to hear about the clients, love to hear about the babies. So it's very important, is not to be so much, hey, this cannot be done. I don't know what will be the purpose to tell the person that cannot be done. So
Yeah.
one of the things about the states, like I say, they will go with a birth certificate from Colombia where both parents are on the birth certificate, or if it's a single parent, will be the single parent on the birth certificate. And you do have to, when you go to the appointment to pick up or to claim your baby's passport, US passport, you do have to prove them was a surrogacy.
Yeah.
But
I don't
the
know.
surrogacy,
It's so frustrating because, I know good things about Colombia, and I know and Mexico's the same way, where I know good things about it. And then you hear there's just so many bad actors out there. There's so many agencies just not doing a good job, not doing what you're doing to,
Yeah.
and it wasn't very long ago. I had a consult with somebody who was with an agency doing a surrogacy in Colombia, and she was told 100% that the surrogate had to be put on there, and it was going to take, years to remove her. And I said, well, have you been promised they're going to go through the process to remove her? Because the last thing you need or want, the best advice I can give to everybody, especially with the United States, is that if you leave a surrogate on the birth certificate, you're putting her at risk and you're putting your child at risk.
Exactly. And like it's very key. If it wasn't or it was illegal to do it, the U.S. Embassy will not grant the U.S. passport. They're look into the surrogacy agreement, look into all the documentation that you have to prove, and also it's very important to work with an attorney that has done this work before. I do have clients and sometimes they say, hey, I have this friend of a friend that is attorney in Colombia and he wants to get my case. I'm like, no, because that attorney is probably criminal law or labor law. We cannot work with attorneys like that because it's from zero. They don't know anything.
Yeah.
So why, like, our role as agencies or fundaciones is to guide people. Like, hey, it's like a mathematically. You have pretty much all the, let's say, players or all the third parties that you work with, and you say, this is how it works. This is the way. And it's very transparent because once they have select to work with us, they have a one-on-one conversation with the attorney that we work with. And pretty much what we have offered, he offers, is to also hear the attorney from the other side where they're going to live and pretty much kind of like a customize what do they need. So for example, in Spain, they need also a bunch of other documents that has to be notarized by the surrogate in Colombia. Well, we get it done because we have to make their life easier in the country where they're going to reside. So it's very and here, for example, attorneys in their countries of origin saying we haven't spoke with anybody because in Colombia no attorney want to speak with us. I'm like, why? I don't understand. To make
I
it
don't
easier,
understand either. It's
it's frustrating.
do you think it's more expensive? It can't be. A couple of years of trying to get the surrogate off the birth certificate can't be cheaper than just not having her on there to start with.
Remember, that's only for U.S. at the moment.
Well,
only
at the moment, U.S. it's important for us.
Yeah, everybody else, the surrogate will have to be on the birth certificate. And surrogates will have, for example, notarize 42 days after the birth. They need to notarize one document. We make it happen. So we kind of like, you cannot be so rigid and say things that, can be done, and make easier for their attorneys because it's very important.
Well, and these clients, the advice they're receiving and what they're telling me is that the agency says, well, we'll put her on there and all you have to do is go to the US and do a second parent adoption for the parent that's not genetically related, or for the mom, essentially, because the surrogate's on the birth certificate. But what people don't understand is that it doesn't matter what I do in the United States on an adoption front. If I do a step parent adoption, it does not remove her parental rights. That has to be done in Colombia. And she stays on that birth certificate and she still has parental rights. She could show up down the road and say, this is my child. I want to say in this child's education and time with my child, right?
Yeah.
She hasn't been removed.
Correct. Or the surrogate, let's say, God forbid, a year later, or within the year that she delivers, she dies of natural causes, of sickness, whatever. She will be forever in that birth certificate. So it's very important to know the law and to apply the law. And don't be afraid, because at the same time, and this is very important, that's why I repeat it and repeat it. If the U.S. Embassy see the surrogacy contract and claim all these documents that has been done in surrogacy, it is because it's legal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because otherwise, you don't show up with with papers and that are not real. You have to claim everything. You have to claim the DNA. You have to obviously show that if you married with your husband, your marriage certificate, if you're not married, all this kind of stuff. And they have the power internally run social securities, run everything they need to be done. So I don't know what is the motive of people in Colombia, probably because they're not informed sufficient or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Kim.
think that's part of it. What I've noticed a little bit of a trend of is it's agencies that are non-U.S. agencies working in Colombia. And so maybe they're an agency out of Spain working in Colombia, and they're used to the advice that they need to have the surrogate on the birth certificate, but they're just not following through and being clear and complete with the clients about the removal process. And with a U.S. citizen, why not take the shortcut? Just never
Yeah.
put her on the birth certificate. That's the best
And
case
the other,
scenario. It's a wonderful scenario. It doesn't, it's not the end of the world for the U.S. for the surrogate to go on and then be removed. We can handle that, but
yes.
it's more efficient and better and safer to just never put her on there.
Now, two things. I don't know if legalizing this in Colombia is going to change something to the U.S. embassy. I don't know, honestly. Right. But right now, that is the process. And second, then I want to explain, I got a phone call from a ex-surrogate from Bogota. Then she's living in North Carolina. She called me. I'm like, okay. I help her on the phone, and she say, could you help me for my name to be removed out of the birth certificate?
Oh no, because she was left on. Yeah.
Then I have 7 years ago, 7 years. And she has contact with a single father that he's in the United States, and he doesn't want to remove her because he gets benefits. For some reason, he gets some type of benefits having her on the birth certificate. But the important thing that we don't talk and needs to be talked is that also these women, this is registered on your social security number in Colombia. We call cédula de ciudadanía, which is our social security, is recorded that she has a child abroad. So very important for the surrogates to be removed on the birth certificate. And I think that's where I come and say I'm pro-surrogate, because I love the parents, don't get me wrong, and I help them and I guide them and I protect them when they're there, with all the paperwork. But at the same time, the women are so fragile that sometimes they don't know what they're signing. You know what I mean? So you have to say, hey, we promise you we're gonna remove you, because after 8 months or a year, then they can obtain the other citizenship. We can remove. But obviously, I don't know what type of, and I know everything, the name of the attorney that doesn't want to help her in Colombia, things like that. I say, what is the purpose to leaving this woman on the birth certificate? Now she's applying for some type of job in the US, and they are requesting, where is that child? Like, why the child is not living with her?
Right. Well, so for U.S. citizens, take that another step. If she has other children and they're applying, it's called the 𝗵𝗲, which is for educational money for college.
Cool.
You're right. The number of children you have, how big your family is, what your resources are, all of that's relevant. And
yes.
right. Yeah. So there's so many aspects where, there's a lot of times, oh, goodness, I mean, if that single intended father, once that passport expires, if they have to get a new passport for the child or they ever lose it, you're going to have consent from both parents.
Well, that's
why I just pretend like, well, she was a surrogate now and I don't need her. But if she's on your birth certificate, she's the other parent that has to consent to anything that requires both parents.
That's relationship with her and asking her to sign for the passport. And she's like, right. I want to be taken off. I love you and I love your child, but that's your child, not my child. Genetically, it's not hers. So why is having her? So she was calling me to see if I help her. I'm like, well, unfortunately, I cannot do it. But she gave me the name of the attorney, then help her on the surrogacy contract, and I contact her and I ask her if we can be helped.
And it scares me
But,
even more for her because she lives in the United States, so she also has liability for that child. That child starts
correct,
doing drugs, gets in a car accident, starts a
correct,
wildfire, things that
yes,
Americans love to sue over. She has
yes.
liability for all of that.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So I
All
I
right.
think again, sometimes we think, okay, the parents, is they're kind of like a very afraid of what can happen in Colombia or not, or financially or whatever. But also the women who help these couples are also in danger. Let's say it like that.
In danger. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
But there's
very
a
very
right way to do it. That's what's so
yeah,
frustrating about it. There is a correct way to do it in Colombia. So
correct.
we've gone through the whole, this is the right legal advice. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're screening for agencies that you want to work with, that should be one of your screening factors. So let's
Yes.
talk about what else you do within your organization, your agency, and
Yeah.
why you think, I mean, what makes a good foreign agency? I mean, I'm saying foreign from a U.S. citizen perspective for people listening, but I
Yes.
know we have people listening all over the world to the podcast. But what else should people be screening for in Colombia for a good agency?
Well, like I started in the States, when I'm one of the agencies that do home assessments, it's very important to get to know the surrogate. In Colombia, the difference in the US, and I like that I can compare both of them. In Colombia, it's very difficult to obtain medical records from the
I think that's a
surrogate.
common problem around the world versus the United States. Yeah.
Yeah, versus United States. The reason why is most of the women in Colombia giving birth in a public setting hospital. Okay. So when it's public, they're not getting any records, let's say, of the visits or at the end, like a discharge paperwork, nothing. Because honestly, they go deliver and go home. Okay.
It's just not
Versus
a
US.
cultural thing you do, right?
Correct. So, for example, right now in Colombia, that we are giving private insurance to our surrogates, they go to a private hospital to deliver. So we have all the records from the pregnancy because it's private versus public. So it's very important portion of it. Then now you can enter in a system that has Colombia. You can see the medical records, but not everybody has access to that system. Because it's a public system. So that's one of the things. Good things about it. I do go through all the checklists from the, ASRM, the Association of Reproductive Medicine. Do Colombia, the IVF clinics, most of the IVF clinics have a standard as a US clinics, so that's very important. They also do, as they don't have the records, they also do more stuff than is done in the States, like the pap smear, hysteroscopy, things like that, and is really necessary in Colombia to get to the transfer. So they do all these kind of extra tests, so to make sure that the woman has delivered a child before, then she's healthy, things like that. Things that we have in Colombia that is positive is that we don't have so much the problem of the BMI problem, which is in the States. In the States, we have a lot of body mass index, a little bit
Right.
over the 2. In Colombia, we have a very good body mass index, so that's no problem. We do background checks. We do a financial check. We do visit, when we visit her home, we make sure that all the people that live with her, pretty much if she's married, then her husband is there, her children are there. So these home assessments pretty much happens on the weekends or at night, because the time where the family is all there inclusive. If she lives with the parents, because she's a single mom with the kids, we also make sure that the parents know that she wants to become a surrogate. It doesn't affect her decision because she's obviously
Has that right. Yeah.
she has that right, but at the same time, also we make sure that the parents are okay with it, or or if they have any questions, we can answer things like that. So that's something. We are one of the the few agencies in Colombia that we open that direct communication from the parents and the surrogate, so they can know each other, they can meet, anything, we open to that. Okay.
Yeah. Say that again, because I think so important. It makes me so proud of knowing you and your group that you do
Yes.
that.
Yeah, because I'm proud of my surrogates. I'm very
Yeah.
proud of all
Well,
the surrogates.
so what Olga was saying is the intended parents who are starting this journey will meet their surrogate, will know who she is. There's no
Yes.
secret
And
behind doors thing going on. There's the intended parents will know she's being taken care of because they have
yes.
communication with her.
Yes.
Versus some of these programs where they don't allow them to meet the surrogate. You don't know if she's actually being taken care of. You don't know if she's actually receiving the money. It's all secret.
Correct.
And
So
a
it's
lot of
very
them
important.
are saying they're doing that to protect her, but
Well, protect from what? You know
from
what I
what?
mean? But
Yeah.
because the thing is, I put some standards for my program where I do not select women with financial vulnerability. So that means that they cannot be, like in the States, they cannot be in government assisted programs. The same in Colombia. I don't accept surrogates that they are in those programs, because what, for me, ethically speaking, is like abusing somebody's financial necessity. So I don't like that. So all my surrogates, they work, because most of them are single moms, but they have a job. So we investigate, and they have a job, and they have an income. All this kind of stuff has to be proven, with paperwork and everything, and investigated as well. And also, if they are married and they are not working, then the husband has a job. So we investigate everybody, because it's the way to do it. You know what I mean? It's the way to do it. No, I will not see it other way. So it's important for me that there's people that can speak and write. They're very eloquent when they speak. So the first moment they meet the surrogate is when the matching happens. So we present pretty much a profile like I present in the States, and I present the profile of the surrogate to the parents and the parents to the surrogate. Very important, Kim, I let the surrogate to have the last word on who
Good.
she's going to help. However, I don't have the surrogates in a portal. Like, it's not like just scrolling up and down people. No, I don't have that. And also the parents are not in any portal. So the things I do is we get to know the parents and we get to know the surrogates, and we match about personalities. So for example, we have a person, a parent, and he's a fashion designer. We can match him with a florist, a person that has a florist.
Right.
Things common,
Right.
Doctors, medical doctors, and they're in other countries. We match them with I believe called CRNs, certified nurse assistants. Has something in common. Psychologists with teachers, things like that will have something more than
Yeah.
for them to speak. Very important when we select the parents. This is not a transaction. This is no hey, I need help. Okay, we help you. Here's the baby. No, there is no like that. It has to be, and that is the human portion of it that I'm very involved, because we will take care of the surrogate and the baby for the 9 months. We give updates and everything, but we are also conscious that the baby is gonna be for the rest of his or her life in somebody's home. So who is the home? Who are these parents? So we also ask for the parents' background checks. We ask psychological evaluation. The surrogate will have her own psychological evaluation. So it's a lot of checklists, I will say, before somebody enter into our program. And we have to have a common nomination that is, this is energy. We building energy. And if one of the parents or the surrogates don't have the same energy, or we are off in energy, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a bad cycle. So
for
very
people listening, if they've been interviewing agencies in the United States, a lot of this may sound familiar. It may seem like no big deal. But as soon as you interview multiple other agencies around the world, this will sound novel in some ways,
Mhm.
and amazing, though. And you should want these things.
Yeah. And
You
and
know,
I have to, the surrogates in Colombia, the candidates are shocked because they have been through other, I'm just been 2 years in Colombia, so they have been in other agencies looking and questioning things, our surrogates, and they were in our program. And they decided not to start surrogacy because for them, was very kind of fishy, kind of like not clear what was their role, like why they cannot meet the parents even in the delivery room, and they're okay. All of our surrogates are okay for the parents to be in the delivery room or in the C-section, the parent to come in. So they don't want to be considered just an object. And that's very important. It's a human being that is helping other human being to create more human beings. It's just the way it is. So for her, it's very, if you talk to this, our surrogates are very uh, happy and pleased also with how we run the program, where we also have a nurse, certified nurse, that is the one who go physically with them to all the appointments. To all the appointments we go. So because it's also a small, commute, I will say. Cali is 3 million people, and everything is 20. Where we move and the surrogates live is always 25 to 30 minutes commute. To the hospital, to us, to them. So it's very easy compared to the state, and it's way longer than 20
yeah.
minutes. So, yeah.
So, okay, that's the screening. What about
Mhm.
the surrogacy contract process in Colombia?
Correct. So based on what clinic you're working with, that's where we follow what the clinic is requesting. So at the moment, for example, with Fundación Grace, we have 2 contracts. Okay, so the surrogate will have her own representation, her own legal counsel, and also the parents. Okay, so there are 2 attorneys representing the parents, and there are 2 contracts that we generate from that. One is more altruistic approach, and that's what the clinic wants to see. Is based on that is where they give the approval to keep going on the cycle. Okay, the
Okay.
different than the states, where the states pretty much are requesting a certify or a clearance letter or legal clearance letter from the attorney saying, hey, the parties are okay, they want to transfer 1 embryo, 2, whatever, and let's keep moving. No, here the clinic that I'm working with, the IVF clinic, have their own in-house counsel, is the one who check. Then the attorneys have done their jobs, and the contract that they want to see is the contract that is stipulated by the law. It has some legal, like the abortion portion of it is there too as well. And also they meet with the parties, meaning they meet with the parents, they meet with the surrogate and the 2 attorneys. So they all like in a big Zoom conference call, and the conference call is about 40 minutes. The conference call, and pretty much making sure that all the parties understand what they're signing. The other contract is more like sustainability, more the financial contract with the surrogate. So that's where the contract, I signed that contract because I'm the one responsible for the payments to the surrogate. So I'm in that contract. I'm not in the first contract because it's more the
Right.
parents and, okay?
So, are you
Mhm.
unusual in this approach? Compared to other agencies in Colombia?
Well, I don't know if they have, I believe most of the people have the 2 contracts done because they don't, the clinics do not want to see the financial
Clinic's
portion
not
of it.
interested in it. So, okay. And are
Yeah, at
most
the
of
end,
the clinics kind of operating the same in Colombia? Is it pretty consistent, or is there dramatic differences between them?
well, there is some clinics that are different, and I picked up the one who is more American approach in the medical, legal, and things like that. Also in the rates of pregnancy, they have good rates of pregnancy. So very important for me to have everything pretty much tied up, I will say.
Are there a lot of clinics in Colombia?
Well, in Cali, we have three or four clinics in Bogota. Bogota is the one who has the most. In Medellin, there are two clinics. Not all the clinics work surrogacy though. Just
Right.
very
Okay.
important.
Yeah.
It's like the hospitals, like in the States. The same in Colombia, all the hospitals will not attend surrogacy cases.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
back to what you were saying about the contracts. The key parts that I want people to hear or just restate is the
Mm-hmm.
surrogate had her own attorney. The intended
Correct.
parents had their own attorney.
Yes.
So they received that legal representation separately. It's critical. I mean, and it's very, that is a shortcut that's taken in a lot of places.
Correct.
Yeah, not in the United States anymore because we've kind of forced it out.
Yes.
Between standards with the organization, some state laws requiring it. Not all state laws have that element, but we've kind of forced. There was a day when I first started surrogacy, I was fighting and fighting and fighting for surrogates to have their own attorney. It was a constant battle. And parents wanted to take that shortcut. It's not an appropriate shortcut at all.
Correct. So that's the approach that we try to get into Colombia, but because it's nothing, it's no statues, there's nothing,
Yeah,
and
it's
that, and
hard to force it. Yeah.
so it's up to what you want to do with the cycles, pretty much.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and what's important to hear there is no law, but you're looking for an agency that's decided to do it the right way, decided
Correct.
to pursue this. Yeah.
And I think meeting the surrogate and having groups with your surrogate is pretty much transparency, pretty much. Like, we're not afraid of having for her to have any deals with them, because there is not gonna be any deals with her,
Right.
with them, because she's happy with her life, she's happy with her job, she's happy in everything, it's not a perfect world, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the baby is growing with the right energy.
Now, are the lawyers, I mean, obviously these contracts are probably in Spanish for Colombia. Are
Yeah.
they translating them to the proper language depending on what country the intended parents came from?
It's just like in the States, when you have international clients, you're not supposed to translate to Chinese or to French or to Spanish. Let them be. But at the same time, the attorney that I'm working with, he pretty much got closed down to the point. And also we have translators in the conference call where the parents will understand what is the approach. And those translators are familiar with surrogacy terms.
Right.
So that's
okay.
important as well.
No,
But no, they will not. He's right now perfecting pretty much the translations, but it's a big note then say, hey,
it's a lot of work. Yeah. No, there's a big disclaimer saying something could be inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah. They can hire their own attorney in United States if they want to check in the contract, but pretty much Spanish has become like a very language to understand for the parents. Most of the parents are West Coast, East Coast, so it's people that pretty much kind of have a proficiency a little bit in Spanish, kind of like it's good.
Okay. Now, on the compensation for the surrogate, what does that look like in Colombia?
So for the surrogates and their compensation, as we go back, there is nothing to legally says anything or to stipulate things. It's up to pretty much the agencies what they can offer. Okay. The sustainability, obviously, it is up to depends on what the surrogate, if it's the first time, second time surrogate. And we also look into what is the purpose for her to do with the funds, right? Most of the people is to expand their business. Most of the people is to get a maestria, masters. Most of the people is to leave the country, so they want like extra money, things like that. So all depends on what they are looking for. We have standards for first timer, second timer, and third timer. Very important in Colombia with the clinic that we work with, they will not allow for a woman to do more than 3 times. And that will be the exception to the rule. It's 2 times. But the exception is to have a third timer. Okay? No, like in the States, like you can do, up to 6 live births. No, in Colombia, it's not like that, So, or at least the clinic that I work with, I think that's very ethical speaking, although,
I like it. I've
yeah,
never been a fan of our numbers. And there's a
yeah.
lot of surrogates that would disagree with me, but the toll on your body and the amount of stress, on the
So,
physical. I mean, I
yeah.
only had one child, for God's sakes, and it did a lot to me.
Yeah.
So,
That's a lot. That's the first thing the clinic told me. The clinic told me, "Hey, your children are not gonna be doing it 6 times or 5 times. No, we have a standard of 2, an exception to 3. We'll go to the medical board, to see if they allow them or not. But anyway, but all depends on what level they are in, the first, second, or third time level. And also from our fundación, we also help them with few things, but that's come from us. That doesn't come from the parent, that comes just from us. Things that happens when they go to the medical screening. Sometimes the surrogate have to have an operation for anything to remove the tubal, or the ovary, or
right.
things then it's not necessary, but it's like causing certain things to the uterus, then they cannot transfer. And the clinic say, well, if she get this done, we will accept her. So that runs on us, not to the parents. We don't ask the parents, hey, can you help us? No, we do it. So if we kind of flexible in the amount of expenses that the surrogate can carry it, pretty much, and we make them aware, here is the invoice for your operation, and this is the receipt that we pay, because obviously it's under her name. So it's very important for us to be transparent on how much funds are going into her as well.
Transparency, that's the last key element for everybody to hear. That's what I want you to hear out of that whole part of it. Transparency. Yeah. There's a million ways you can chop that apple and serve it up, but as long as things are transparent,
at the same time, post-birth, sometimes the parents say, Olga, can I give my surrogate this much money? Well, they want to financial gifts or any gift like that. And I say, of course, obviously, your surrogate deserve it. So we're not the type of agency say no. You know what I mean? It comes from the parents and want to give it to her or her children. It's up to them. It's no, I think for me, surrogates deserve everything,
Right.
everything.
I agree.
Yeah, so I'm no opposed to that. Mm-hmm.
All right, my friend. And if people want to get a hold of you and talk to you about your program, how do they do that?
They can go to our website. It's Fundación Grace, 𝐿𝐢𝐿𝐺𝐻𝐿𝐲 or 𝐿𝐢𝐿𝐻𝐲 Colombia.org, or they can email us at info@fundaciongrace.org. They also can WhatsApp us as well. The number is +57 300 338 6833. I believe is that our phone number.
All right. Well, if it wasn't quite accurate, we'll make sure when we post everything, we have the accurate one. So.
Perfect.
All right, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for joining this episode of Surrogacy Warrior. I hope you found the discussion enlightening and got the information that you need. We love feedback anytime we can get it. Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website at lawyersforfamilies.com for more resources, lots of updates. In the meantime, remember, you're not alone in this journey. Together we are warriors. Until next time, stay strong and keep fighting for your dreams. There are ways to become a family, and hopefully you get the information that you need.
You've been tuning into the Surrogacy Warrior podcast with your host, Kimberly Surratt. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, lawyersforfamilies.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.